So much of the conversation that's going on right now is Israel being attacked. Israel being attacked on social media, Israel being attacked, it seems, on regular media, in the newspapers, in conversations. And I don't understand it because it's so clear cut to me that this is a nation state defending itself against the attack of another government, of another country, and they're dealing with it in a war situation, which is two countries. And the attacks are all like, well, think about the individuals. That's the other country's responsibility, is to not do things that require another country to destroy them. So I don't understand the whole thing, and I think we get very confused and derailed, really, by the humanitarian stuff that people bring up. That's real. That's not Israel's responsibility. Israel has a national responsibility to destroy a national entity that's trying to destroy them. That's entirely the Gazan government's responsibility and the ramifications of what they've done. To me, it's very obvious, and that's how nations work. That's how sanctions work with other countries. What about all the individuals in Iran and in Iraq that are struggling because of US sanctions on Iran because of their nuclear program? So what? It's nations, right?
Yeah.
So I find that very frustrating and difficult. But the truth is that I think the relationships were like this too. If you think about all the stuff, what's the number one thing that comes up when we're working with a couple or when we're spending time with a couple? It's always that people are losing context.
Yeah.
You talk about this so much. What's that thing you say?
There's me, there's you, and there's the
Yeah.
marriage.
Can you explain that to them?
I used to find this the whole time. I'm trying to make a decision. Is this worth bringing up? Is it not worth bringing up? Well, better for me to say it, but it's better for him not to hear it. Better for me not to say it. Better. And then at some point, it's like, instead of asking, is it better for me or better for him, you have to ask yourself a question, but there's a third entity there here, which is our relationship, our marriage. What does the marriage need? If I'm going to get resentful by not saying it, then our marriage needs me to say it. If you're going to get upset by hearing it for no good reason, then our marriage might need me not to say it. Like that, it's a very helpful thing to help answer the question.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say, I think, is that we're quite Israel focused, I guess, but it's true out there in the regular diaspora, and that is if people are coming back from war or people are just like very overwhelmed by what's going on with this situation. And I think it's very easy to lose sight of the absolute commitment to the marriage. There's an absolute commitment to this marriage, to our family, to our structure. Now, anything else that happens needs to happen in the context of that truth, of that reality. We're not having conversations about anything else. Our marriage is solid. Whatever our marriage needs, it needs. Now, I need therapy to get over what I've been through. Now, you need this, we need this. Great, and really, really important. But you can never allow the individual problems that you're having to derail the national, like in your life. The national is the marriage. The national is the marriage. That needs to be defended at all costs. And everything that's going on from an individual standpoint needs to exist kind of within the context of that.
I think also it's super important to remember when we talk about context, the other thing that's really important to remember is that when you're in something as just so enormous as a war, it's also really impacting the individual, which is affecting the marriage. When I'm feeling nervous the whole time because I'm very triggered, when you're feeling distracted the whole time because you're processing a lot, I can't feel relaxed and you aren't present, and I need your presence and you need me to just be normal. And there is such a big impact that something like a war has on a relationship. It's also really important to cut a little bit of slack to that relationship. When the relationship feels like it's having a bad experience, it is, but that doesn't mean it's coming from within the relationship. Sometimes the pressures are so big on the outside.
That's a really beautiful point. So I think if you put those two things together, you've got to not allow what's going on as an individual to ever kind of shake the foundation of the marriage. But at the same time, you have to know that some things can shake the foundation of a marriage, and it's not necessarily indicative of a problem in terms of the actual relationship, which is such a weird thing.
I think it's also very important for some of these young couples who are really struggling to maybe speak to some veterans in this country that have been through this and say, how long did it take? How was the adjustment? Did you struggle to connect with each other during this time? Like, were you personally affected? Was your marriage affected? It's so validating to hear from people who've made it through a difficult period. It's really, really rough when you are post-war and the couple's readjusting, and it took us a good 6 months, but don't make any big decisions. Don't overjudge yourself. Allow it to be strange until it becomes normal again. Don't over-worry about what it means that the harmony just doesn't feel like it was before, because we're not in a harmonious time.
Also for people that are not living in Israel, you might be living with someone or married to someone who has a different view politically. You might have someone who's just like, we got to get out of here, man. There's no future for Jews in this country. And you just might not feel that without disagreeing at the horror and totally unacceptable nature of the anti-Semitism that people are experiencing, or the Jew hatred that people are experiencing. Or it could be that one partner is like, Israel deserves all of this and Jews deserve this. It's terrible what they've been doing to the Palestinians. And you might be feeling like, what are you talking about? I didn't know you felt that way. There can be all kinds of things that are coming up for people. And I think that these times, in a funny sort of way, if people can put the relationship first, kind of hold each other's hands and look into each other's eyes and say that I love you, this is not going to break us. We got a lot of talking to do, man. Like, I need a lot of healing. Maybe we need to work harder to get on the same page. There's just like a lot of stuff over here that people need. People need to kind of process and get through. So look, just wishing everyone good luck, whether you're in England or in America or Canada or wherever in the world or here in Israel. We're all really, really struggling, and it's really, really tough. But you should just know, everyone, we've all got each other's backs, I guess. We've all got each other's backs.
It's been very interesting over the last few years because there's been so much sensitivity about people sharing their actual perspectives with cancel culture and microaggressions and people falling out over disagreements. We've kind of fallen into a situation where you can't really say anything if you're nervous that people don't agree with it. And I think there is an interesting opportunity here because at the moment, everybody's forgotten that you're not supposed to be microaggressive, everyone's been very, very macroaggressive, but the political things that are happening have really led people to actually sort of share their views, their political views, their anti-Semitic views, pro-Semitic views, like whatever it is. And in many ways, I think it's a big opportunity because when you build friendships with people on how much you enjoy going to the cinema together, that's fun, right? If you're in the same force. But if deep down you really, really, really disagree with people in very, very fundamental levels, there's going to come a point where when that comes out, the relationship is compromised because you just don't see eye to eye. I've had a lot of people saying, wow, I really thought I knew who my friends were, and suddenly they are so against me, or they so don't believe in the things that really represent who I am. And I think for people who are dating at the moment, or even just in friendships, but specifically for people who are dating, the fact that funnily enough, people have now become a little bit more honest about what's really important to them, what they really care about, what they really value, what they're really against, what they find really offensive. It's a very important time to realize that relationships that really go the distance kind of have to be based on some kind of value system that's cohesive. It's very painful to be in a relationship with someone and to realize that when they actually speak their truth, you don't have any respect for them. But it's really important to know that. You don't want to kid yourself about that and find yourself married 3 years later to someone who, when they speak their views, you really, really don't respect them. So I think there's an opportunity for people to figure out what they care about and to make sure that the people that surround them, that they're romantically involved with, that they're going to be building foundational relationships with, are enough on the same page as you that you can respect them. Because respect at the end of the day, like we've said a million times, it really is very much based on when I know your value system, I can look at it and say, it's not identical to me, but I'm aligned enough with it.
Right.
I have to know those things before I start investing.
100%.